Peace be upon you. A man dressed as a scholar came to a village and told the people, "Ask me anything you like and I will answer you." And indeed, he answered every question asked and in great detail. People even began to suspect that he was making up any answer he wanted. So they said, "Let's ask him about something hypothetical we invented and we'll call it Khunfushar." They went to him and said, "Our esteemed scholar, what do you say about Khunfushar?" He replied, "Yes. Khunfushar is a plant that grows at the edges of Yemen's mountains. When camels eat it, their milk curdles. This led the great Yemeni poet to say, 'My love for you has thickened my heart, just as milk curdles with Khunfushar.'" Who can prove this eccentric old man wrong? Who can travel to every mountain peak in Yemen and prove that the fictional creature doesn't exist? Who can deny that this made-up name might actually be real by coincidence? I've told this story to many and they all laughed. Yet it's strange that many read an almost identical story and don't laugh. This is Darwin's story in his book On the Origin of Species, under the chapter about the imperfection of the geological record. Follow along with us. Darwin claimed that his theory requires the gradual and very slow emergence of species, and that Earth's layers should be filled with an endless number of transitional forms. There is no phrase that can adequately describe the astronomical number that would result without a single creature turning into another. Anyways, let us assume that Darwin's fantasies could be fulfilled with an unlimited number of transitional creatures. This means that creatures will appear in layers of the Earth sequentially. It didn't happen suddenly. Its sudden appearance means that it didn't evolve from something before it. That's why Darwin said in the 10th chapter of On the Origin of Species, if many kinds of living creatures appeared at once, it would be fatal to his theory of evolution by natural selection. According to him, would be fatal to the theory of evolution through natural selection. Okay, Darwin, you knew from your time that many species appeared suddenly starting from the Cambrian period. And you knew that these phenomena repeated in other layers, where we see many species suddenly appearing in the same layer without being preceded by intermediary creatures according to your expression. Darwin acknowledged that this difficulty challenges his theory, instead of admitting it is a fact that undermines his myth. He mentioned that some of his peers objected to him with this fact. So, did Darwin acknowledge with objectivity and integrity, as some believe, or did he engage in his usual fabrications afterward? Let's see. Esteemed Darwin, where is the Khunfushar? Where are the countless transitional forms that precede the sudden appearance of numerous species in a single layer? Darwin would answer you, we are unaware of the Earth's layers beyond the borders of America and Europe. I mean, maybe there are countless transitional beings, according to Darwin, that fill the layers of the Earth in the far corners of Yemen, China, Mozambique, Honolulu, and remote places. Darwin says that we forget how vast the world is. It might be that evolution happened gradually somewhere, and by chance some species migrated to the lands of America and Europe. And of course, my friends, for this scenario to work, we have to assume that for some reason these creatures did not continue the evolutionary process in America and Europe, but instead evolved outside of these areas, with versions of other creatures periodically transferring to America and Europe without further evolution. Therefore, the Earth's layers somewhere outside America and Europe should be teeming with transitional creatures. In this superchimerical scenario, you understand Darwin's saying at the end of his discussion that we only have what resembles the last volume of the fossil record, limited to 2 or 3 countries. And from this volume, only one chapter has been preserved. And from this chapter, only a few lines of some of its pages have been kept. Okay, Darwin, if we accept your explanation for the upper layers, then what's your response to the deep layers of the Cambrian period in the Earth's history? These layers also show sudden appearances of species in what is known as the Cambrian explosion without any preceding transition species. So we can't imagine these creatures have any transitional precursors in some hidden layer, since they are the deepest operational layers with no significant layers beneath them. Darwin tells you, perhaps before the layers of the ancient Cambrian period formed deep in the Earth, there were very long periods of time filled with living creatures, possibly as long or even longer than the time from the Cambrian period to now. But Darwin, is it logical to believe that these long periods were teeming with diverse living creatures and we haven't found any trace of them? Can you prove me wrong? Did you dig deep and pierce through the Earth to the other side of the globe to prove that there are no such layers? Honestly, no, so shut up. But Darwin has a third response. telling you that maybe in ancient times environmental conditions were so violent that they caused rapid changes in living beings so that the fossil record did not have time to preserve the intermediate creatures. So Darwin threw you into the geographical unknown outside the borders of America and Europe, somewhere into the unknown depths of the earth, into the unknown depths of history, challenging you to prove his theory wrong. So Darwin threw you into the geographical unknown outside the borders of America and Europe, somewhere into the unknown depths of the earth, into the unknown depths of history, challenging you to prove his theory wrong. The people laugh at the chimerical world that referred to the edges of the mountains of Yemen for a non-existent plant. But they do not laugh at Darwin, who refers to the unknowns of time and space for beings that he says must be innumerable, and that the layers of the earth must teem with them, nay, that life on earth should be teeming with them because to prove the correctness of their great scientists' predictions. A task that mustn't be very difficult, because certain layers of the earth somewhere should be teeming with Darwin's Honfisha, although America and Europe are devoid of it for unknown reasons. While movie heroes and cartoon characters were searching for their mothers everywhere, or the lost treasure, or the film's heroine, Darwin's followers spent 170 years searching for the impossible everywhere. They arrived on a substance expedition to China, only to find forged bones glued together, which they named Archaeoraptor fossils. It was soon revealed that they were fabricated, as we explained in an episode of The Bank Theory. They arrived in Ethiopia, deep in Africa, and found remnants of bones, some of which were crushed under their hands, causing their hearts to almost break with them. They hurried to gather them, named them the RD fossils, and considered it one of the most significant discoveries of the century in the world of human evolution, and an icon among the great icons of human evolution. And when the big names of their magazines like Nature and Science, and their major websites like Scientific American started to doubt that RD had any connection to humans at all, and now they are divided in interpreting it, brother, you can imagine the extent of the tragedy and the miserable state of the followers of the myth when they celebrate a decayed fossil and publish numerous studies about it, then argue about it, even though their myth requires countless transitional stages, even if we conceded a lot to them. These are just some of the sad stories we mentioned several times in the Fisabil al-Kharata episode. Despite all this, Richard Dawkins still says that evolution must have happened, and that we have to dig to find the transitional beings somewhere else on the other side of the mountain. Remember the Kanfashar at the edges of Yemen mountains. So where is your Chacha rock, Darwin? We did not find it outside Europe and America in numbers beyond measure as we had hoped. This was a gap, not in Darwin's theory, but in the convoluted theory itself. A gap his followers learned from and sought to fill after him. So when you hear that scientists after Darwin are filling the gaps, that's true. But they are not filling theoretical gaps, they are filling the convoluted gaps in the theory. They try to predict absurdly, so they don't repeat the embarrassment that Darwin caused them regarding fossils outside America and Europe. When you hear Francis Crick and then Richard Dawkins saying to you that a long time ago, in a different place in the universe, some world oceans developed in a Darwinian way to a very high technological level and designed the life forms they created, maybe alien beings were the ones who sowed the seed of life on Earth. So they didn't take you to the edges of Yemen mountains or to some place outside of America and Europe, but to the edges of the universe. And how do you know? Maybe it is the aliens who seeded life away by trillions of light years in some corner of the cosmos. Can you prove otherwise? So do not be surprised if Darwin's followers say in the future that evolution happened on another planet, and then the beings we know came to us via flying saucers, and that the rest of the beings stayed on planet X, teeming in countless numbers. Then the absurdity evolves, entering the world of physics and astronomy, taking the absurdity not to the edges of Yemen's mountains, nor to the edges of the universe, but to outside the entire universe, where Hawking says, there are countless universes which explain the precise tuning of the physical constants of our universe. But where are these universes, Hawking? Did you come out of our universe to prove that the theory is wrong and that there are no multiple universes? Okay, how do we see it with experimental science? In the future, perhaps the black hole will take us to these other universes, referring to an unknown future, just like they referred to the unknown past, but this time outside the bounds of the entire universe. So, my brothers, this is the method of obscurity, referring to the unknown, which cannot be verified. A method frequently used by followers of myths in many fields. So pay attention to it in your discussions, and peace be upon you.